Oh, hey, sorry about that, I didn't see you there. Welcome to MINUTIA MINUTE. This is episode 9. We are one away from episode 10, that's kind of exciting. And as promised, I'm going to take a look at Ultimate XMen. Now, I know I said that I was going to wait until issue 3 before reviewing this book, but I've looked it over a couple more times since I read it initially. It's a couple more weeks before the third issue comes out, and honestly, I've kind of made a decision about the book. So, I think I'm ready to give my review. And actually, we're only going to review issue 1. We're not really even going to look at number 2. The reason why I want to do it now and wait, frankly, is because I can tell you definitively I will not be picking up issue 3. Where to start? So, comic books have been revamping a lot lately, right? I think that's an understatement. And I've noticed, and I'm sure you guys have too, that there's definitely been a trend towards sort of lighter, brighter, in kind of a strange way. Some of the most famously dark and brooding characters aren't quite as dark and brooding as they used to be. A good example of this is Batman and Robin. So we got this new Batman and Robin title, just rebooted, and Bruce Wayne is in the cowl, but it's not as dark as it was before. It definitely doesn't have the same flavor as the last Batman and Robin title, where Dick Grayson was Batman, but at the same time, this is very much a comic book about sort of renewal of the soul in kind of a way, because Bruce Wayne is really, because he has a son now, he's really trying to move on from the thing that made him Batman, which is the death of his parents. He talks about how they're going to celebrate his parents' anniversary instead of their deaths, because they should be remembered in life. And that is a big step for dark and brooding Batman, right? I shouldn't say it's lighter, brighter. I mean, that's a very, very major sort of misconstrued statement if you look at that literally. But I mean, it is a new direction, and it's not quite as depressing, right? I know that they've done this with Daredevil, from what I've heard from you guys. I'm actually a pretty big Bendis, Malieve, Daredevil fan, but I'm actually pretty excited about this new series, and I've been toying with picking it up. It's already on issue 5. I can't believe it's already been that long, but I think I'm going to pick up to see what the new one's like, and I've heard that is definitely a step in a new direction. A little bit lighter, a little bit brighter, you know, not quite so much abuse on poor Matt Murdock, right? So anyway, Batman and Robin and Daredevil kind of taking things in a new direction that's just a little less heavy. Maybe heavy is the best word for it. Now, on the flip side of that, you've got this new Ultimate X-Men book. And to review this, since I'm only looking at issue 1, we're going to cheat a little bit, and we're going to look at both issue 1s. Now, when the Ultimate books first came out, I mean, this was a big deal. You know, people were really skeptical, and Spider-Man, I think, was first, pretty sure, and then X-Men. But I mean, both of them were pretty excellent. They broke new ground. I mean, no one thought that, you know, an Ultimate line like this would ever really work, and it has worked in spades. You know what I mean? It's worked so well that they're, you know, it's still going, if that tells you anything. But so I was looking through the first issue of the old series by Mark Millar and Adam Kubert, and I noticed some kind of disturbing similarities between this number 1 and this number 1. You, in both cases, have very much mutants as terrorists. However, it plays out in a different way, because in the original Ultimate X-Men number 1, you also have Magneto as a counterpoint to the X-Men. So he sort of it creates a situation where really no one's right. Humanity, you know, thinks of these guys as terrible and terrorists and so on and so forth. But at the same time, you have someone like Magneto to kind of prove them right, even though you know better. So you can kind of sympathize with both sides, and you understand where everyone's coming from. Now, on the flip side of that, holy smokes. You get into Ultimate X-Men #1, the new title, and there's none of that to be found. As a matter of fact, they really make a point of making humans just terrible people. You've got, again, it's like, you know, mutants are considered terrorists, so we're hunting them down. Which is very much, you know, the beginning. This starts with Sentinels, people, you know? So exactly the same premise, except that there's really no redeeming value for the humans in this. It actually takes it a step further, and I haven't read X-Men in a long time. Just to preface this, what I'm about to say, the 2 times I followed X-Men in the last decade has been Grant Morrison's New X-Men and Joss Whedon's Astonishing X-Men. So I'm not current on all the lore, especially not the Ultimate lore. So apparently, I'm assuming this is a new thing. Spoilers if it is. If it's not, then you'll think I'm silly. But the new thing is that humans created the X-Men, created mutants through experimentation, Weapon X type stuff, right? And so it makes humans... The problem I have with that is it puts humans even more in the wrong. You know what I mean? Not only are humans terrible for hunting mutants down, but they're also, you know, there are also these lab experiments that humans have created, thus making humans even more evil. And, I mean, there's just no counterpoint to the X-Men, you know what I mean? It's so one-sided, and it really just drives home the opposite of what books like, presumably Daredevil and Batman and Robin are doing, which is taking things in a new direction. This is just taking things in the same direction to such an extreme that it just isn't enjoyable for me. It's just too heavy, it's too redundant, and I mean, you know, we saw how completely oppressed mutants are in X-Men. We saw it in X-Men 2. We saw it in X-Men The Last Stand. We saw it in X-Men First Class. We've seen it in every X-Men book ever. And I'm just tired of it, you know? Why? There's got to be a way to make X books fun again. I feel like I'm just getting preached at with this. So, I know I said I was going to wait till issue 3, but that's pretty much my final say on X-Men. I'm definitely not picking up issue 3, so we'll just leave it at that. If you guys are liking this title, let me know. I mean, it's interesting. I shouldn't say that this is a bad book, because it's not. It's got decent enough art, although it is kind of Adam Kubert light, I guess. I feel like after going back and looking at this, I felt actually even more so about that. Nick Spencer is a great writer. He's actually the main reason I decided to pick this up, because I'm really enjoying Morning Glories. And, I mean, it reads like a decent enough comic. It's just too much for me. It's not very fun to read. It's just depressing and sad. So, that's why I'm not picking it up. So there you go. That's my review of Ultimate Comics X-Men. Not nearly as good as All New Spider-Man, which I am so excited for Wednesday when issue 4 comes out. Okay, so moving on to our MINUTIA Morsel, I wanted to do something that kind of ties in with the whole, you know, dark and brooding, made light and fresh and new, or maybe not as, you know, made different, at least, we'll say. And so I wanted to review a movie. I haven't done a movie yet, and I wanted to review something that you don't think you want to watch. So, I am looking at Batman, the movie here, the 1989 Tim Burton film. The movie I'm reviewing, though, is a movie that was not particularly well received by critics and audiences. Hasn't really stood the test of time. It's actually not this one. Let's see, we got Batman Returns here. Now, the only problem is the reason why it hasn't stood the test of time is because it wasn't dark enough. Definitely not this one. We are actually going to be looking at Batman Forever. And please don't unsubscribe me yet. Just wait, hear me out, okay? You don't think you want to watch this movie. This movie is not all bad. And I know you guys are rolling your eyes right now, but just hear me out. Because this movie, more than ever, is actually very, very valid. Now, there's a lot of reasons why you think you don't like this movie, or why it's been bred into you to think you don't like this movie. And I'm one of those people too, to a degree. So, I'm not saying I have all the answers here. You know, I've been in the boat where it's like, oh, Batman Forever, ugh. But, you know, I've come back around to it. So anyway, reasons you don't think you like this. We remember what came after, which I'm embarrassed to say I have, just because I have the complete collection, Batman and Robin. Terrible movie. At no point should you assume that I am endorsing this film. Okay, so we remember what came after. If you watch any extras or documentaries about the Batman movies, you've heard filmmakers make lots of excuses about this movie. Michael Uslan says, I know that, and he's produced all of the Batman movies since Tim Burton's Batman, including Batman The Dark Knight, and, you know, he says, well, you know, they're all Batmans of different eras, so the original Batman is very much Batman in 1938, whereas Batman Returns is 90s Batman, and Batman Forever is 50s Batman, and, you know, he's got this whole excuse. I don't think that that was how they were thinking of this movie when they made it, and I don't really see how Batman Returns could be a great representation of Batman in the 90s when it was made in basically probably 1990 and 1991 before it came out in 92 probably. So that is an excuse, and seeing right through that, it sort of puts a bad damper on this. Another one, Akiva Goldsman, who's the writer of this film and Batman and Robin, argues that you have to turn these characters on their head to see if they stand up or fall down, because that's how innovation happens, and that's how these characters are made fresh and new. But really, you hear him say that, and you think Batman and Robin, and you think, you're just trying to come up with excuses why you didn't sell out. And you did. So, as much as he's correct about that statement, I don't think that's what he did either. So anyway, filmmakers make excuses about this film. That doesn't help its credibility. The third reason is this film is definitely dated in the worst sense of the word. Especially in two ways. The infamous bat nipples, which are not nearly as bad as in Batman and Robin, so please don't lump them together. They're not really, they're still present, but they're not really that noticeable. It's this one that they're terrible. And then also just the portrayal of the villains. We've got Jim Carrey as the Riddler, Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face. They're so over the top and overdone, not great portrayals, very dated. So anyway, those are several reasons stacked up to sort of turn you off to this film. Please go give it a second watch, especially now with comic books like Batman and Robin coming out. I really started thinking about this movie again when they were doing Batman Incorporated, actually. So, I mean, the direction that comics have been going have slowly been drifting back towards this, and not necessarily in a bad way. The thing that makes this movie actually very good is that, well, I shouldn't say very good, it's not a great movie, but that gives it value, is that this story tackles a story about Bruce Wayne that isn't usually tackled in Batman in the comics, in other movies, TV shows, radio shows, whatever, which is that it's a psychological reckoning between Batman and Bruce Wayne. And it's about him growing older and sort of coming to the same crossroads that he comes to in Batman and Robin, which is, it's kind of time to move on. Is Batman still the right fit for me? And at the end of the film, he says, I'm not Batman because I have to be, but because I choose to be. And it's fascinating, as much as this movie gets harped on, that 15 years later, this movie's 15 years ahead of its time, guys, that we finally came back around to that idea with Batman and Robin, with the launch of the new 52. And I mean, I really like this new direction. I think that it's going to give some fresh life to the character. I don't think that it's ignoring the mythology at all. It's totally recognizing it and taking it to a new level. Batman Forever does the same thing. Batman and Robin does not. Batman and Robin ignores the mythology. So that's the difference there. In case I haven't burned that into the ground enough. But anyway, give this a shot, especially if you're enjoying the direction Batman and Robin has taken, because this movie does have value. Enjoy it for what it is. It's not a perfect film. It is dated as hell, but there's value in it. So give it a shot, and that's my minutia morsel. Let me know what you think about that. If you think I am being sacrilegious, let me know. Let's talk about it. I want to know what your thoughts are. So anyway, that's all I have for today's minutia morsel and our minutia minute, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And we'll be back real soon with Wednesday comics coming up, and also a very special review with a very special guest star coming up either this time or this coming episode or the episode after. So thanks everyone.